Okay, so in this video, I am going to show you how to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So this is another way that you can use to solve quadratic equations. And we're going to solve this using the procedure, and we're going to go through it step by step. So let's take a look at step 1. Okay, so step 1 is to rewrite ax squared plus bx is c. Okay, you want c, you want your constant to be on the other side of the equal sign. Here's your x squared term, this is your x term, here's your constant. So we're going to get rid of the 56. Okay, get rid of the positive 56. So we're going to minus 56 to it. Okay, so if you minus 56 to the left, you have to minus 56 to the right. So the new equation is going to be x squared take away 18x is negative 56. Okay, so we want to make it look like this. So that's the first thing you have to do. Step 2 is to divide both sides by a. Okay, so a, the value of a here is 1. Okay, so if you look, a is 1. Okay, because it's 1, you do not have to divide everything by a. Because when you divide by 1, it's not going to change anything. Okay, so we're just going to keep it like that. So step 2 is all done. If a was other than 1, like 2, 3, or negative 2, negative 3, then you would have to divide all the terms by that number. Okay, so in this case, we do not have to do it. Step 3 is to complete the square by taking half of b and then square it and then add it to both sides of the equation. So we're going to take half of b. b is negative 18. See it? This is your b. Okay, so we go negative 18 divide by 2. Okay, that's how you take half of it. You get negative 9, right? Take half of b, you have to square it. Okay, so when you square it, you get 81 because it's negative 9 times negative 9. So that's 81. And you are going to add 81 to both sides. So it's going to look like this. X squared, take away 18x plus 81. And then on the other side, you're going to have negative 56 plus 81, okay? So what we just did is we add 81 to the left, 81 to the right to keep it the same. Okay, so that is step 3. Let's go on to the next thing. Step 4 is to factor the perfect square trinomial. Okay, this right here is called a perfect square trinomial. Okay, we're going to factor into, because it's a perfect square trinomial, okay, we just know that we can factor this into something square. Alright, so that's something, it's really easy. It's going to always be this. It's going to be x. Okay, so see how you have a negative 9 here when you take half? When you take half of b, okay, it's always going to be that number. So it's going to be x minus 9 squared. Okay, and then on this side, negative 56 plus 81 is going to give you 25. So perfect square trinomial, okay, turns into that. Okay, we factor that. Okay, basically we factor this into x minus 9 times x minus 9, and then you rewrite as x minus 9 squared. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. The next thing we have to do is to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so we're going to take square root of x minus 9 squared, and then we're going to take square root of 25. Okay, so we're going to take square root of x minus 9 squared and we have to take the square root of 25. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do the exact same thing to the other side. Okay, so the square root takes away the square. So when you take square root of x minus 9 square, you're just going to get x minus 9. Square root of 25 is going to give you 5. But we got to remember that there's a plus or minus in front of that 5, because you need a positive 5 and a negative 5 because of this square, okay? Because remember, you can square positive 5 and you can square negative 5. You're still going to get 25. And the last thing we have to do to come up with the final answer is to solve both sides of the equation and then simplify if we have to. So here we can split this up to x minus 9 equals positive 5. And the other one is x minus 9 equals negative 5, right? Because of the positive, because of this right here. So here we're going to get 14 because we have to add 9. And then here we're going to get, you add 9, you're going to get 4. Okay, so x equals 2, 4, and then 14 in a solution set. All right, and that's how you solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Let's take a look at another one. We're gonna solve this by completing the square. So we have a procedure of how to do it. We're gonna go through it step by step. Okay, so step 1 is to rewrite ax squared plus bx is c. So that means we gotta get rid of the c that's on the left hand side and get it to the right hand side. So here's your c is a positive 8. So to get rid of it, you want a minus 8. And if you minus 8 to the left, you get a minus 8 to the right. So the new equation is going to be 3x squared plus 10x is, so 3x squared plus 10x, so this is going to be 0 here. Okay, and then you have negative 8 on the other side. Okay, so that's step 1. As you can see, you have ax squared plus bx is c. Now step 2 is to divide both sides by a. Now this time your a is a 3. See, here's your a. Last time we had a 1. Now it's a 3, so we have to divide everything by 3. Okay, you always want to get this to 1x squared. So divide this by 3, divide the 10x by 3, and divide the negative 8 by 3. And then simplify, so you know 3 over 3 turns into 1. So you're left with x squared plus 10 over 3x. Okay, and then is negative 8 over 3. All right, so that is step 2. Now let's take a look at step 3. Step 3 is to complete the square by taking half of b, square it, and add it to both sides of the equation. Okay, so here's your b. Your b is 10 over 3. Okay, so we're going to take half of that. Okay, so 10 over 3. Okay, when we divide by 2, it's taking half of it. So divide by 2 is the same as multiply by 1/2. So we'll go 10 over 3 times 1/2, right? Okay, so that's taking half of it. Then you get 10 over 6. And you're going to reduce that by 2, right? So you're going to get 5 over 3. Okay, so half of 10 over 3 is 5 over 3, as you can see. Okay, so what do we do with this 5 over 3? Well, we have to square it. Okay, so we got to take 5 over 3 square. So 5 over 3. We're going to square that. So when you square it, you get 25 all over 9. Okay, because 5 squared is 25, and then 3 squared is 9. So that's the number we're looking for. Okay, so now we have to add that number to both sides of the equations, right? So 25 over 9, we got to add that to both sides. Okay, so here you have x squared plus 10 over 3x plus 25 over 9. Okay, so I'm adding 25 over 9 to the left, and then I got to add 25 over 9 to the right. So plus 25 over 9. So as you can see, we're adding 25 over 9 here, and then 25 over 9 here. All right, let's take a look at the next step. The next thing we got to do is factor the perfect square trinomial. This right here is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so we're going to factor that into something square. Okay, so that something is always going to be this number right here. So you can just write it out as x plus 5 over 3 squared. And now you have to simplify this side. So in order to add this, I need common denominator, right? I need to multiply this by 3. And I got to multiply this by 3 to get common denominator. Okay, so you have negative 24 over 9. And you have 25 over 9. Okay, and then when you add them, you end up with 1 over 9. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this out. So here I have x plus 5 over 3 square is 1 over 9. Next is to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so I'm going to take square root of x plus 5 over 3 squared, and then take square root of 1 over 9. Okay, so when you take square root of 5 plus 5 over 3 squared, you're going to get rid of the square. So you just have x plus 5 over 3. And then square root of 1 over 9 is 1 over 3. Square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 9 is 3. But then you need that plus or minus. Okay, and the last thing we have to do is simplify. So we're going to break this up. So x plus 5 over 3 is 1 over 3. And then the other one is x plus 5 over 3 is negative 1 over 3. Now we have to solve this. So when we solve this, we minus. So we minus 5 over 3. So here we're going to get, okay, so if you minus 5 over 3 on this side, you are going to get negative 4 over 3. And then when you minus 5 over 3 over here, you're going to get negative 6 over 3, which is equivalent to 2, negative 2. Okay? So those are your two answers. Now we're going to put those numbers in a solution set. So x is negative 2, and then the other one is negative 4 over 3. Okay, so here's another example. We are going to solve this by completing the square, and we have a procedure that we can use to solve it, and we're going to do it step by step using the procedure. Okay, step 1 is to rewrite in the form of ax squared plus bx is c. So we have to get the constant onto the other side. We have to get rid of this negative 21. So you can have just ax squared plus bx on the left-hand side, and then your constants on the right-hand side. To get rid of negative 21, you would want to add 21 to it. Okay, if you add 21 to the left, you got to add 21 to the right. Okay, so it's going to look like this. x squared plus 16x. Okay, negative 21 with positive 21 is 0. And then on the right hand side, you have 16. That's how you get into the form of ax squared plus bx is c. Okay, next thing we have to do is to divide both sides by a. So your a for this equation is 1. Because it's 1, you do not have to divide by a. Okay, because if you divide everything by 1, it's not going to change anything. Okay, it's just going to stay the same. So step 2 is all done. So step 3 is to complete the square by taking half of b, square it, and then add it to both sides of the equation. Okay, so we're going to take half of b. So to take half of b is you divide by 2. So here's your b. Okay, so we're going to take 16, divide by 2, and then half of 16 is 8. Okay, and then when you square 8, you get 64. Okay, so 64 is going to be the number that we're going to use to add it to both sides. Okay, so it's going to look like this. X squared plus 16x, okay, and then plus 64. So we're adding 64 to the left, and then 16 plus 64. Okay, so we're adding 64 to the right. So step 4 is to factor the perfect square trinomial. So this right here, okay, is a perfect square trinomial. So we're going to factor that into something square. So to get that something, it's going to always be this number right here. It's half of b. Okay, so since it's a positive 8, here you're going to have x plus 8 square, and then on the other side you have 64. 16 plus 64 is going to give you 80. Okay, and then step 5 is to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so we're going to take square root of x plus 8 square, and then we're going to take square root of 80. So square root of x plus 8 square is just going to give you x plus 8. And then square root of 80 is not a perfect square, so we're just going to leave it alone for now. Okay, but we need to add that plus or minus. Okay, so don't forget that plus or minus in front of the square root of 80. And then the last thing we have to do is solve and then simplify. So here you have x plus 8 equals plus or minus, and we're going to simplify this. We're going to break down 80, because 80 is not a perfect square. We're going to break down 80. Okay, so square root of 80, we're going to break it down using the largest perfect square that can go into 80. That would be 16. 16 goes into 80 5 times. Okay, and then the 16 becomes 4. Square root of 16 is 4. And then square root of 5 stays the same. So to get x all by itself, so your x is going to be, so we're going to have to minus 8, right? And then minus 8. So you're going to have negative 8 plus or minus 4 square root of 5. Okay, so we're going to put that in a solution set. So it's going to look like this. Negative 8 plus or minus 4 square root of 5. Okay, so that's how you solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Okay, so let's take a look at one more. So this is going to be your last example in this video. Okay, so we're going to solve this by completing the square. Okay, we're going to go through it step by step. Okay, so first thing we have to do is to rewrite as ax squared plus bx is c. So here is your ax squared term. So this is your c right here. 76 is a constant, so that is your c. And then you have on this side is your bx term. Okay, so the bx terms, okay, has to be on the left hand side, and the constant, okay, got to be on the right hand side. But we can rewrite this. So 4x squared, we know that we want to minus the 16x, right, to get rid of this positive 16x. So if you minus 16x, you're going to get negative 16x on the left hand side. Okay, so that becomes 0. And then you minus 76 to get rid of this positive 76. So you get negative 76 on the right hand side. So this is gone. Okay, so now you have this that is in the form of ax squared plus bx is c. Okay, so that's the first thing you got to do when solving by completing the square. Next, we are going to divide everything by a. So your a is 4. It's the coefficients of x squared. So divide this by 4. Divide this by 4. And then divide this by 4. So then you have x squared. Okay, 4 over 4 cancels out. Take away 4x. 4 goes into 16 4 times. And then here, 4 goes into 76 is going to be 19 times. Right? 19 times 4 is 76. And now we are going to complete the square by taking half of b, okay, and then square it and then add that to both sides. So half of b, so half of negative 4, so that means negative 4 divided by 2 is going to give you negative 2, and then you have to square that, so that comes out to positive 4. Okay, and then you're going to add 4 to both sides of the equation. Okay, so it's going to look like this now. X squared, take away 4x. Okay, and then plus 4. All right, and then the other side is going to be 19, or negative. It's going to be negative 19 plus 4. And then step 4 is to factor the perfect square trinomial. Okay, so this right here is a perfect square trinomial. So we're going to factor that into a binomial square. And then on the other side, you're going to have negative 15. What is that something square? Well, it's going to be x, because you have a negative 2 there. So we have x minus 2 square. And then step 5 is to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to take square root of x minus 2 squared. And then we take square root of negative 15. So when you take the square root of x minus 2 squared, you're going to get x minus 2. And then plus or minus square root of negative 15. And then the last thing we have to do is to solve and then simplify. Okay, so to solve this, we're going to have to add 2, right? So solve, we're going to add 2, so that means we get a positive 2 on the right hand side when we add 2. And then plus or minus square root of negative 15. Okay, using square root of negative 1 times square root of 15. Okay, so now square root of negative 1 turns into an I, because it's not a real number, it's an imaginary number. Okay, so this is equivalent to I. All right, and then square root of 15 stays the same. Okay, you cannot break down 15. And then we're going to write this out. X is 2 plus or minus. Okay, now you're going to have I times square root of 15. Okay, and that would be your final answer. So x is 2 plus or minus I square root of 15. Okay, so the I, okay, came from square root of -1. All right, so I hope that makes sense. All right, I want to thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you.